this is the first June IDX that I've helped Walt to co-host. And the buzz around the place, I'm sure you felt that, the industry getting back together again. We've had over 1,200 people, 1,100 people, came through the doors yesterday. Great panels, great speakers, really great event. So really pleased to be here. There's a lot to talk about, and I think you've seen that from the agenda from the conference this week. There's certainly not a shortage of things that we've got to cover. What's really important to us at FIA is driving member value. First of all, that comes through our boards and our regional advisory board, which I chair in Europe, and it's setting the priorities with the board and making sure the decision makers in our industry are fully engaged. And then it's really the engine room for us to drive values through the committees and the working groups that we drive with our members across a whole host of different really topical subjects. We covered a lot. Operational areas is really important. Operational standards. So if you look at where we are with our membership, we're right in a perfect position to drive operational standards. For instance, we've got that whole ecosystem. If you look at what happened in June 2020 with the issues with trade processing, I think everyone recognised something needed to be done to improve the legacy infrastructure. So, the FIA has been able to, pull the industry together through the industry task force with buy side, with sell side, with all the major exchanges, with the clearing members and the vendors to say, okay, what happened and what do we need to do to improve the system? So I think that's where we're pivotal to drive value. The industry task force pinpointed the trade and the allocation process as being one of the key pain points. Industry collaboration is key to improve that, and we've managed to bring the industry together to discuss that. Standards is obviously important on how we solve that, and that's why we've obviously just announced the setup of the Derivatives Market Institute for Standards, and that's how we're going to move that debate forward. So that's one area where I think we can show our value. Some of the bread and butter we do is on the advocacy and policy side. There's so much going on in Europe. I've been here for 3 years, but even laterally, before I joined FIA, I was at Deutsche Bank for 21 years, and the last job I had there was global head of reg and market structure, and it was the whole debate about MiFID and then EMIR and then Brexit. There's been a lot of change that's happened in Europe over the last few years, and we're still dealing with the hangover from Brexit. FIA spends a lot of time with UK and EU regulators and policymakers, for instance, focused on still CCP equivalents. Not just UK-EU CCP equivalents, but also EU and third country equivalents as we approach the CRR transitional deadline at the end of June, just only a few weeks away, whereby we're still waiting for recognition for the OCC in the United States, or equivalents for China, Turkey, Taiwan, recognition for India. And that's significant implication for EU domiciled clearing members. If there's no equivalence in recognition by that deadline, it would mean a punitive increase in capital, an increase in cost of clearing, their international firms, a potential competitive disadvantage on how they access those markets in the United States or in Asia, compared to their international competitors. So, one of the things that we're certainly doing is highlighting the key concerns to European Commission and to ESMA. There's a lot of focus on that side, I'm pleased to say. I asked for more clarity and solutions before the deadline, or mitigate the implications for our members. And then we've obviously got the UK-EU debate on equivalence, which is still ongoing. I covered it in depth in my panel yesterday morning at the start of the conference. The FIA has been very active in this area for the last few years. We've been very active with the Commission and ESMA through their roundtables and their working groups last year. And we've just responded to the Commission's consultation on reviewing the EU clearing framework, where they're proposing a number of voluntary and mandatory measures to grow liquidity on EU CCPs. Now, first of all, the FIA is very supportive of growing financial market infrastructure globally, including the EU. But we very much advocate that that should be voluntary, it should be market-led, and that regulatory mandates are bad for our members and bad for the growth of financial market infrastructure. Some of the measures that are being suggested by the Commission, by compelling clients, clearing members where to clear, or by introducing increased capital requirements to access UK CCPs, we think that's bad for the industry. For a few reasons. The main one being, competitive disadvantage to firms, but also we see a divergence from the EU, from the global regulatory standards on mutual recognition and equivalence. And I think if you look at the debate is that, we very much welcome the fact the Commission's extended the CCP equivalence deadline. We've now got until the end of June 2025, obviously, to sort this out. But we've also seen strong rhetoric in the last couple of months from the Commission that for strategic autonomy reasons, for financial stability reasons, because there's a majority of euro liquidity still cleared in London, that they've been saying there will not be a further extension of equivalence. Now, the consequences are quite stark. First of all, if there's no equivalence for UK CCPs, it doesn't just affect euro products. European clearing members, market participants would be cut off from liquidity to trade base metals, soft commodities, other financial products, which are not accessible in the EU. So I think that's the first implication to the real economy and the investors in Europe. But then you've also got to look at the consequences for our core membership, for our clearing members. If you're cut off from UK liquidity, it increases your cost of capital. Punitive increase to your RWA and your capital. It breaks the netting set for your cross-currency margining, which increases costs, and really the biggest concern for members, and also for, I think, some of the regulators in Europe, is the competitive disadvantage. If a European clearing member is unable to access London, they can't service international clients, but their international peers can still access those customers. So a potential commercial implication as well to EU clearing members. As I said, we promote voluntary market-led solutions to incentivize clients through the development of competitive, resilient financial market infrastructure in Europe. And we're not just saying this is all bad. We're also trying to be practical and productive in the discussion through the consultations, through the engagement, the roundtables with the Commission and our advocacy. We're proposing positive measures to grow financial market infrastructure in the EU CCPs, for instance. Closing the product gap for swaps and futures by launching liquid multi-currency contracts to facilitate cross-margining, developing, improving the operational and risk infrastructure at EU CCPs, which is an iterative, ongoing process, extending the target to payment window so that European clearers can pay in euros at the end of the day, encouraging public entities to have more skin in the game and provide more liquidity into the system. And we're supportive of pension funds clearing. There's currently an exemption because that would provide more liquidity into the financial system in Europe. So, we're We're proposing positive measures which over time will be those market-led voluntary solutions for clients to choose to clear in Europe rather than the regulatory mandate which we think would be bad.